Welcome once again to the Institute of Automotive Mechanical Engineers Hunter Division, and to all our special guests this evening, a very, very warm welcome. We know it's a little chilly. We hope you're enjoying the evening so far. I'd like to introduce the man who's the Hunter Division Chairperson. We call him El Presidente. I just made that up this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, a big warm welcome to Evan Doolan.
Thanks, David. I've never been called that much very often, so I'll accept it. Thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody. But on behalf of the Institute of Automotive Mechanical Engineers and the IAME Hunter Division, I'd like to welcome the exhibitors, the members, ladies and guests, and our special guest speaker, Betty Klemenko, owner of Erebus Motorsport, her husband Dennis, Erebus driver Dale Wood, and event organiser for the Coates 500 Newcastle, Kurt Sawinski. I hope I said that right, Kurt. Lake Macquarie Councillor for the West Ward, Jason Pauling. Our major sponsors, all 4x4, Burson Auto Parts, AAA Radiators, have kindly joined with us to make this Hunter Division annual dinner a success. Our special guest speaker, Betty Klemenko, Erebus Motorsports, has given up her time out of a very tight racing schedule to be with us tonight, and so has Dale and I suppose Daniel, her husband. And our MC for the night, David Sawyers, and we welcome also Peter Blanchard, IAME CEO and IAME National Councillor for the Northern New South Wales area, Wayne Adnam. And by the way, he has taken over from Jerry Bubbles, who has stepped down from that position. I would like to thank the IAME head office and the staff there, the committee members here in the Hunter for their marathon and outstanding effort and support in making this dinner a wonderful success. They've given up their time as far as exhibitors and suppliers to bring us the products that are on the market in this day and age, and any equipment, and we very much appreciate their patronage. Just on behalf of the IAME, I'd now like to introduce David and let him MC the rest of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Evan. One of the tasks this evening is a presentation of a 50-year honour award, and we're going to get two people up here to do that for us. The CEO of the IAME, who I met this evening, Peter Blanchard, and also a local living legend. You've got my bank account details, Jerry, is that right? Good boy, good boy. Jerry Wobbles. So could we have those two gentlemen up? I'm sorry for interrupting your meal there, Jerry. But it's a fairly important occasion. Ladies and gentlemen, could you make them welcome? Betty Klemenko,
Penrite Racing Team, special guests, suppliers, sponsors and members of the Hunter Division. Welcome again to the Newcastle Racecourse. Evan, everything that you said, I'd like to echo that it's been a very, very long task for the people of the Hunter Division, the branch, and also the members of the IAME to get this event up tonight. But I really appreciate the work that everybody's put into it. The annual Hunter Division dinner has grown year after year and now shines as this impressive event, which is, I think, one of the pinnacle events in the automotive era for the Hunter. Technology at the moment is outpacing education, and the challenges have probably only just begun in this arena. Autonomous vehicles are just around the corner, and this will bring the industry plenty of opportunity to evolve once again. It may also be a twilight to some of the areas that we actually have known as a part of the automotive industry. In 1985, we saw the leaded fuel start to demise. It was phased out. Then we saw safety systems such as airbags, ABS and ESP, etc. come into a motor vehicle. Today, we now use terms like high-res 3D GPS tracking. We're talking about a 5.9 gigahertz, and of course, we all know what an SBAS is, a satellite-based augmented system, which is going to drive the vehicle-to-vehicle technology, the communications, and of course, we're looking at radar and sonar on some of these vehicles. But the real hurdle is now going to be, as in with the data, who owns the data. All these cars are starting to report back congestion. They're all going to have communications between themselves, what routes are taken, where people might be going, at what time are they travelling. All this data is a whole new industry and a whole new challenge for the automotive. The government tells me by somewhere around 2030 to 2035 that the road toll will have to be zero. Our health system will be absolutely at capacity, and one of the major concerns they've got is with diabetes at that time. The government is really pushing very hard for autonomous vehicles and autonomous drive to enter. It really is a dawning of a new era, and one of the things that the IAME does is look very much at the future vehicles, and it's also events like this where we have the sponsors and we have the suppliers coming along, giving to the 240 people here tonight the latest in the technology, the latest in what's happening at the moment. And a part of our role, or my role, is to ensure that I have a bit of a visionary look at what's around the corner. The many years have gone by and we've had a lot of fantastic people that have worked in the trade, one of which I've known for many years, which is Mr. Jerry Wubbles, that you'd all know as the cornerstone of the Hunter Division. I'm now going to ask Jerry Wubbles to say a few words in regards to our fifth year recipient. And you've got to remember, this is a gentleman that has been a member of our organisation, paying his fees, contributing, turning up to these nights for 50 years of his life. Jerry.
Thank you, Peter. It's a great pleasure to do this award. We go back 63 years, and yet I didn't think we were that old, actually. But it was that this young gentleman that I met him, I just started off as an apprentice, and his father, and we all, and most people here will know him, that was Cedric Tate. And Cedric Tate was he was the guru. We used to always look at him as being the man that knew all about the automatic transmissions, and he was the #1 man who started it here in Newcastle. The IAME, for many years, and I didn't realise at the time that it was the IAME, but they used to hold Sunday picnics at times. And it was such an occasion that I had the pleasure of meeting this gentleman who's just reached the 50 years membership of the IAME. And with that, I'll say that I'd like to invite John Tate up to the podium up here and be with me, and we'll swap a couple of little yarns that. Yeah. When we were at the picnic, Cedric had his young son, who was young Johnny here then. He was at the picnic, and they introduced me. I was only barely in Australia, about 12 months, and he introduced me to, first of all the barbecue. I'd never been to a barbecue in my life. Then he introduced me to cricket. Now cricket, you know, you've got these 3 little bits of stick in the ground and you throw a ball at it, and I didn't even know how to hit it. He did try and show me, John, didn't you? And the other thing is when he said, and I said, no, I can't play. And he said, well, you play football? I said, yeah, I'll play football. So I was talking about the football with the round ball, which used to be called soccer. But of course, he brings out this ball that's shaped like an egg, and I thought, how can you kick that thing? You know, you can't dribble it, you can't, you know, you put it on your head and things like that. But anyway, he convinced me that it was for tough people only. So I don't know what you thought about soccer at the time. But then John, not that too many years later, joined us in the motor trade as a mechanic, and shared the business with his father. And of course, we used to see one another quite a bit over various problems. We would try and sort out over the phone, and then we'd go and see Cedric, and you know, Cedric would say, well, you should have known this, didn't he? He's always, because he was our teacher at the TAFE. We used to go there overnight, 4-hour night sessions, and he would say, mate, I've told you this a dozen times how to fix these. But John, in later years too, I think people will recognise John, maybe not as John the mechanic, but I think we do remember him very well as being the Lord Mayor of Newcastle, which was quite an achievement to receive, and his good wife Kathy. And when last year, when Peter had mentioned that John was due for his 50-year membership award, and I thought, well, how can he be in front of me? You know, I'm younger than him, so it must mean I'm younger than him. So, but we won't tell them our ages, will we? No, we won't. No, we're still young. So when Peter was just reading out to just all the modernisation with motor cars, you know, we can go back when we still had dynamos and generators and. Yep. You know, what was power steering? But John, it now gives me great pleasure to present you, thank you, Peter, with your 50-year award. Thank you. And that's a great thing, and thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Can I just
Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be very quick and just thank Jerry for his kind words, and also Peter. This is a marvellous industry. You must never understate the importance or the quality of this industry. Repairing and servicing motor vehicles is something that started many, many years ago. It was only on the cards that I was ever going to be a motor mechanic, because that's what my father wanted, and I became a motor mechanic, and I'm proud to use the term motor mechanic. These days I use technicians, and that's okay. But I was a motor mechanic, I became a motor mechanic, and I am a motor mechanic, and I'm proud of that. I've done other things, as you know. So, first of all, let me just say, being a motor mechanic is not an inhibitor, it's an opportunity. You can go on and do great things. We've seen the technology change dramatically, and we've just heard a little while ago about how it will continue to change. So there's opportunity in future there. I just want to say this. I heard the letters IAME when I was very, very young, and I didn't know what the hell it meant. And when I started to learn what it meant, I thought, I just don't understand that. But my father was one of the very early examiners, and he pursued and he perpetuated the quality that is now the IAME. And what we need to understand is IAME stands for a standard. It stands for a level of achievement. And if you're a member, you achieve a level, and you can put that up proudly. And the thing we must do as people who support the transport industry and work in the transport industry, we need to make sure that we maintain the standards that were established, that are current today, and I expect and hope they will be current in the future. We keep the quality of the work that we do, and we put our name on it. Now, there's not many industries that do that, but when we fix a car, it goes out with your name on it, and that's the standard we must keep, and I believe the IAME has a great future in maintaining that standard. I'm very proud to receive these awards. 50 years sounds a lot, doesn't really seem a lot, but it doesn't matter. What matters is be part of today, be part of the future, and the IAME standards will serve you very well. Thank you very much.
Could we have a huge welcome for Betty Klemenko?
I'm not going to touch this because if I touch it, it's going to fall. Okay, look, it looks a lot, but I'm blind, so I'm just going to show you. Big writing, so probably would fit on one page. First off, I've got to explain the hair. I've been watching a series called Vikings, and I decided that I would go with the flow. I have to do something to make myself, entertain myself. Ooh, that would be good. I love them. Okay, first off, I am so honoured to be here among the backbone of the motor industry of Australia. I have met quite a few of you tonight, and I've had an amazing time listening to your stories and where you come from and what you do, and I am very proud to be here tonight. So my story is actually going to be really long and drawn out now after I've been listening to you lot. So I'm just going to read it because if I don't read it, my husband will get very angry because he says if I don't read it, I'm going to end up waffling. So it's all written down. So, good evening, everyone. How nice it is to be here tonight. I already said that. I usually talk off the cuff, but have orders tonight from hubby to read my speech because if I don't, I'll spend an hour telling you how to make a really good Hungarian goulash. Some of you would know me as Betty from Erebus Motorsport, and some as Betty Saunders, the daughter of John Saunders, the co-founder of Westfield. But however you know me, you will know that I am not an average woman. I have been known to do some absolutely stupid things and some absolutely brilliant things. I'm the first person to say I've stuffed up, and I'm the first person to say how brilliant I am. I have a terrible habit of saying whatever pops into my mind. That's this. I was once told on television that I don't have a filter. Most of the time I'm in trouble with someone. And when Dave Reynolds joined the team, there were a few more people rolling their eyes and saying, God help us. I have to learn that what we think is funny, other people don't, especially the ones that have a tendency to fine us. And adding Dale Wood to the mix has not made it any easier. The two of them are hilarious, dirty, but hilarious. I was honoured to be asked to talk tonight and also a little scared, especially when someone who won't be named, Mr. Warburton, says, don't stuff it up. You are the first owner to do this in Newcastle, so make it good. My extraordinary life started by being chosen. I was born a Catholic, raised a Jew, went to a Church of England school, and my younger son's godfather is a Muslim. I was chosen, interesting, I was chosen by a man called Yancy Schwartz, who went for a walk in the city of Sydney and in the Strand Arcade saw a jeweller shop called John Saunders Jewellery and thought that was a good name. And he took it. That was his name from now on. I was chosen to be his daughter and a proud Australian. Adoption's a funny thing. You have a normal life and then one day your life just turns around and someone spills the beans and says, you're adopted. This someone for me was Peter Lowy. I was 10, and as usual, Peter and I were arguing about something absolutely stupid, and he blurted out, you're adopted. So I marched myself upstairs at the Lowy house and stood in front of my father hands on my hips at the tender age of 8, and just looked him in the eye and said, "Am I or am I not adopted?" And he looked at me and said, "Yes." I looked at him and said, "Okay then, that explains a lot," and stormed off. Threw a vase at Peter Lowy. He never talked to me again, and my father gave me a year's supply of soft rabbits to throw instead. This was the way my father and I got along. It was blunt truths or secrecy. He once said to me, "There are only 2 streets in this world you need to know. That is George Street and Pitt Street. George Street is a 2-way street and Pitt Street is a 1-way street." He told me that you always have a choice, but if you pick Pitt Street, there is no turning back. So always fight for what you believe in and believe in what you're fighting for. I owe my father a lot. He had come from war-torn Europe, where at the age of 19 he was put into a concentration camp as a political prisoner for listening to the BBC. He stayed there till the end of the war. His mother was taken to the gas chambers and his younger brother was shot in the forest. He learnt at an early age to survive. This gave him the willpower and the determination to come to a new country, where he was given £10 and a bit of luck and a lot of hard work, and he built one of the most successful companies in Australia. Finger there so I know where I'm up to. And he went everywhere looking for money, to every bank, everything, and no one would give him money. They finally found the Bank of New South Wales, who gave them a loan. And they bought a piece of land, and he and Frank Lowy are standing on this piece of land, and the bank manager says, "What's the name of the company?" And they hadn't named it yet. And my father, with a very heavy Hungarian accent, please excuse me for trying to do it, goes, "I think we will call it, we are standing in a field in the western suburbs. We will call it Westfield." So thus Westfield. He retired from Westfield to build his own family fortune. I like pockets, my hands are cold. He also built the Sydney Jewish Museum, where both my husband and I worked in the construction. And he also built the Hopetown School for intellectually handicapped children in Wyong, for my brother who is intellectually handicapped. The most common question asked by children at the Sydney Jewish Museum, where I gave lectures on the Holocaust, is why didn't the people in the camps fight back? There were thousands of them and only 100 soldiers. The first time I was asked that at a museum, I asked my father what his answer would be, and he told me. And the next time I had a group of about 200 kids in the auditorium, and one child asked me that question, I told him I'd get back to him. I had a rolled up magazine in my hand, purposely, when I was giving my speech on the war and the camps and the Allies. And during the 20 minutes or so, while I was speaking, I slowly started tapping this boy of about 17 on the shoulder, over and over and over and over the whole time. So during the whole 20 minutes, the tapping's getting harder and harder and harder. After 15 minutes, I stopped. And the boy was just looking at me, and I turned to the boy that asked the original question and I said to him, "Do you know your answer yet?" And he goes, "No." No one in the whole room said a word. So I told the 17-year-old to stand up and walk to the front and wait for me, and he did. And as I was walking down the steps, I stopped at the teacher who was sitting at the end of the row and turned to him and asked him to stand up, and then said, "Are the lives and the well-being of these children your responsibility while they're here?" To which he said yes. I then said, "So why didn't you stop me hitting your student for 15 minutes? He looked at me and I told him to sit down. I walked to the front and stood next to the 17-year-old boy and said, "Why didn't you stop me from hitting you? You're 6 foot tall, you're strong, you've got your friends here, you've got your teachers here, why didn't you stop me? There's 200 of you here, 200 people and me, why didn't you stop me?" He didn't answer me. He just looked at me, and then he just turned around and he said, "I didn't stop you because you're in charge." And that's exactly what it was. Here I was, a little 5'2" girl and a 6 foot tall boy, young boy, who would not put his hand up to stop me. But it opened their eyes, and about half an hour later, they understood where I was coming from, and they understood that no one wanted to go first. No one wanted to be the first person to be shot or killed. So they just stayed quiet. And this was a lesson my father taught me. No matter how great the odds are and no matter how hard you think something is, you can always survive it. You can always find something to fight for. But it also showed me that I had a big problem with authority. I learnt a lot about myself and my father during this time, and it showed me that he was the man he was and did things the way he did because of the adversities he had faced. He made me sit with him and look at every picture and every artefact so I knew what had happened, and to take the fear away and teach me never to underestimate the power and the cruelty of the human race. But it was not all doom and gloom. He was actually a funny guy. Well, he thought so. We had a board meeting with the head of the National Australia Bank, and he walked around the table and he dropped an ice cube down my back as I was negotiating a deal. He laughed, I didn't, but that was my father, ridiculous one moment and totally serious the next. He taught me that I can do anything I set my mind to. In fact, one of his many ventures when he first started Westfield was he thought it would be a really good idea to buy a quarry. So he read everything he could and he bought one, a blue metal one. And Frank asked him if he'd gone mad. But in typical John style, he said, "It'll be all right, Frank, trust me, it'll be fine." Now, this quarry was on the old Hume Highway to Newcastle, and it was called Kulnura. And sure enough, within 18 months, the government said that a new highway was going to be built, and my father sold it to the O'Neill family. When asked by Frank, "Why did you sell it?" he said, "What do I know about building a highway?" So he had a lot of foresight, my father, and he taught me that you never ask someone to do something you have not done yourself. So he made sure that I could always say I've done everything. He chose many jobs for me as I was growing up. It started up by picking up rubbish at the centres. I was Santa helper at Christmas with those little red things with the, elf, one of those. I was a cleaner, I was a waitress, I was a brickie, I was a shop assistant, I was a dishwasher, a duty manager at the Shore Inn at Artarmon, a manual labourer at Hopetown School. I worked in room service and did 18-hour days, just loving it when one of these conventions turned into a bunch of drunk men and women sometimes. And I learned, if anything, that, you've got to be really careful what happens when you're drunk. He taught me the hard way for 2 years. I sat at his desk and said nothing. I just listened. But everything he taught me has made me what I am today. And that is not a raving lunatic, but someone who understands what it is to earn your own wage and make your own dollars and do what you have to do. You can get hit by a bus, get up, dust yourself off and keep on going. To never be embarrassed and have no fear and realise that business is just a series of problems that need to be solved. One now. It's a long way. You don't mind if I put on the floor? I'm not used to wearing a skirt though. So onto motorsport. And how on earth did an eastern suburbs princess with 3 sons end up surrounded by hundreds of men and fast machines? In truth, I watched F1 with my father, but my real love didn't come till much later. And my love for supercars a lot later. My husband, wave to everybody. Not Dennis, Daniel. My husband bought a Porsche and it was late and they told me that we could not get a discount, but they would throw in a driver's course at Mount Cotton in Queensland. So off we went. I argued with everybody as usual, as nothing seemed logical. It's a woman thing. And then we met a driver called Peter Hackett and became his sponsor. When I joined Supercars, many people thought that here is a rich, bored woman who will be gone once she's had enough. But they didn't know that my husband and I had started in F3. We sat on the back of those trailers in the rain and the heat and everything else, and we ate bread rolls with salami and cheese and ham. And I'll tell you a secret, that our manager, who was 15 years old, his name was Michael Massey, and he is now the DOP. And what is he? He's the race director now at Supercars, and it has done me no good whatsoever. He's gone out of his way to show that he's not showing me any special treatment. But then we went on to Formula Holden, and we did a whole lot of things, and then we ended up in the GTs. And we had 2 new SLS AMG cars. I would say that that is when I became a fanatic and a bit of a GT snob. Daniel, my husband, would watch the supercars, or the V8s as they were called, and I'd think nothing of them as I walked past the television. But one day I walked past and they were doing that, I call it the snake, where they go bonnet to tail and it just looks really cool when they're coming down. And then I just got hooked. I just sat there and my mouth open, I was drooling, and yes, I just went, this is it. So I sat down, and after 15 years after starting my motorsport career, I said, why can't we do V8s? To which my husband and my good friend Ryan Madison both looked at me with that, here we go again look. You know, Betty's got an idea. Many months, many fights and many trips to Germany later, we had a team. One thing I did learn is that if a German businessman says to you, yes, maybe, he means no, no way, never, ever. My journey with IAME is another story, which would take a very long time to tell. So here we were, just in time for the Car of the Future season. We put these cars together in the fastest time ever seen on the grid in 9 months from woe to go. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go back to GTs. So here I was with these two beautiful cars and not knowing a thing about them, and decided if I didn't touch anything, then I could fake it till I made it. Wrong, wrong, wrong. In so many ways wrong. People in motorsport know their stuff and can pick a fake at 20 paces. So off I went again, and I learned it all, from the width of the coil to the weight of the engine. We started out in motorsport with a very small team, and I had to name the company, so I called it Cactus. I didn't understand that in Australian slang, cactus meant shit, excuse my French. No one told me this, so the team would always have a little giggle, as well as the announcers, and if something happened to our car, they would just go, oh, there goes Cactus. So I changed the name to Rocking Angel, another smart idea, which when we brought the LSs, I thought was not such a good name. So my son and I looked on the internet and found Erebus. We had the name Erebus before we started in supercars. Erebus was the Greek god of darkness, not the evil kind, but the void. It was just the nothingness that was here before we were. I thought in my slightly warped way that sounded like me, filling a void, being a woman, bringing in the AMG to GT, and at that time, so we became Erebus. After the company was established and everything printed and the uniforms made and the 3,000 caps and everything else, the same said son came to me and said, Mum, maybe we should have read the whole Wikipedia part. I looked at him and thought, crap, this is not going to be good. He then went on to tell me that Erebus was the old Greek name, and in modern Greece, he is now called Hades, the god of the underworld, which was precisely where I thought I would send my son. He then went on to tell me that Erebus was also a heavy metal band, a volcano in Antarctica, and a battleship. I was now sinking in my seat, but I said to my son, I don't think anyone will mistake me for a heavy metal band. I get seasick, and that as long as we don't start sprouting horns, I think we'll be fine. I love those two cars. I mean, I call them my fat bottom girls. We've been to China, we've been to New Zealand, we've been to Macau, we've been all over Australia with them, and they were good. They were really, really good. We had a knack of finding the best people, most of whom were rejected from other teams because they were a little weird, a bit OCD, or just a little bit crazy. And we put them together and found that we now had one of the top GT teams in the world. We won the Bathurst 12-hour and many, many GT races and a championship. We had Mika Hakkinen in our car in China, which was the same time as our very first Bathurst in the V8s. So I went alone to Bathurst, thinking I was a big girl, and put on my big girl pants. And I know I'm jumping a bit, but I've got to get this story out. But I thought it would be cool if I stayed in a caravan on pit lane. You know, you see all the caravans are just at the back of pit lane. I thought this would be really, really cool. By myself, I have other drivers around me, I'll be safe. So I arrived and someone handed me the keys to the caravan, and I thought nothing of it. If any of you are old enough to remember Lucille Ball and her movie about a caravan, think on those lines. We all had dinner and everyone left except for the pit lane stayers, and I was very proud to be one of them. And I was parked next to Warren Luff and then Craig Lowndes, and in front of me was Lee Holsworth and Steve Johnson. So after tales round the campfire, I went to bed and everything was fine. Day 2. I walked around like a zombie as they had put me right next to the large generators that sounded like a herd of elephants all night. And the lights that equaled the glow of heaven just shone through everything. That night, which was the Friday night, same thing. But it was a Saturday that things started to go a little skew-if. I went to the bathroom in my pyjamas and my Uggs, and someone thought it'd be really funny to lock me out of my caravan. And now this would have been really, really funny if we didn't have qualifying in 15 minutes. And that person also didn't think that they should have taken the keys with them, so I was locked out. So I sat at my desk at my first Bathurst 1000 in my pyjamas and Ugg boots, and the TV did find me. And I spent most of my time stewing over what kind of torture I would give these people who had hidden my keys, and the individuals who thought it was very funny to do so. So that night, being the Saturday night, I went to my caravan as usual. Nothing was working. So I marched myself out and yelled at the top of my voice at Luffy and Lowndes and said that I was not amused. And they said, "What do you mean you're not amused?" I said, "Someone's been playing with my caravan. I am not amused." So they all marched back. So I've got 4 drivers and me, and we all marched back and started opening and shutting things, and they started murmuring and discussing, and I mean, how many V8 drivers does it take to fix this thing, I thought. Then they all started laughing, and to say I was ready to kill someone was an understatement. They looked at me, and Steve Johnson asked me, had I pumped this, had I cranked that? And I looked at him like he was an alien. I had never gone camping, I'd never been in a caravan. So I didn't pump anything, I'd never done anything. So it seems you're meant to pump the toilet after every use. The thing had not come with instructions, and I was adamant that none of it was my fault. So Lee Holsworth, who was having the same problems, decided that we would all get together and fix this thing. So all 4 of them decided to fix my problem at midnight on the Saturday before the Sunday race. Let's just say that 2 in the morning, the place was covered in grey water, drivers and myself covered in God knows what, and hoses going off left, right and centre. Then the hose flew off the connection and we were all drowning in crap and water. We all gave up and went to our respective trailers, and we have never mentioned it again. So back to the beginning. Finally, my life in supercars started. I could fill you in on all the technical stuff, but I'd be wrong, and I'd have to drag my husband up here to give you the actual technical details because he knows them all. And my job was much easier, or so I thought. It was sponsors and fans. This is my 5th year in V8s and around my 20th in motorsport, and I've never worked so hard in my life. Spending 1 month in Israel on a turkey farm, feeding the turkeys at midnight while being shot at over my head was not as stressful as this. Being thrown out of the United Nations building because my father could not stop laughing was not as stressful as this. Watching my father tie a hanky around an umbrella and waylay a Japanese walking tour in Jerusalem was not as stressful as this. Having my two-year-old fall into the blue stuff in the toilet in a bus to Vale was not as stressful as this. Walking into a puddle that came to my waist in the dark in Disneyland with a child clinging to my head like a koala was not as stressful as this. You know, you get the gist. I end up in the weirdest situations, and none of them could have prepared me for the road or the trip or the adventure that is supercars. My first Ipswich round found me sitting out the back watching the V8 people, or as I affectionately call them, the white shirters, and Kurt came in a blue shirt, so I'm really upset, packing up. They packed up every pot, every bench. I'm not known for my agility. Everything you see at the round, it's placed by them and packed up by them. In fact, to move a V8 round is like moving a circus. From tents to catering to toilets to crew, communication, media, cables, cameras, you name it, they move it. And it is all done in the time it takes for most people to go home after a round. A round in supercars is not the Friday onwards. For some, it is the Monday before, and the teams the Wednesday till the Monday. And we do it over and over from March to November. The crews, drivers, V8 staff all sacrifice so much to do what we do. We miss out on school plays, teachers' nights, birthdays, weddings, and just seeing our families. This is the first Mother's Day I have spent with my children in 5 years after nagging them and telling them that Mother's Day was just as important as Father's Day. You will hear the term motorsport family used a lot, and that is what it is. We arrive at track from about 5:30 onwards and don't leave the cars until they're all tucked in for the night. What most people don't know is that the cars are nearly taken back to the frame some nights. So home time is anywhere between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. This is not a sport for the faint-hearted. It is not a gender-based sport. If you can do the job, you get the job. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, how does it feel to be in a male-dominated world? Yes, there are a lot of males, but that's because females are just now learning that this sport is exciting. And yes, I get the odd idiot on social media that says something, but after the initial shock to the male owners of the sport that a female was buying a team, they got used to me. A few dirty looks when they tried the girly thing on me, but we understand each other very well now. And if I was being honest, I would have to say just a few of them are a tiny little bit scared of me now. It is a boys' club, but as it so happens, I'm just one of the boys. Many years ago, a female fan was seen as someone looking for a husband. Now they're seen as fans. They are seen as equal fans. They can sit and talk the talk just as good as anyone else. Don't get me wrong, I am one of those women who wants my door open for me, my husband to carry my parcels, and I want to bake cakes, and I want to feel like a woman and a mother and a grandmother. But I also want to be someone in my own right, and I know I can hold my own in the motorsport world. My father made very big footprints in the property world, and I knew I would never fill them. So for me, this is my adventure. These are my footprints. Funny thing is, my 3 sons are not into motorsport. The 3 of them are all in the film industry. What people see when they get to track is months of planning and months of trial and error and the work of dedicated and slightly crazy people who have perfected the art of moving the whole kit and caboodle very fast and very effectively. Somehow in all this craziness we get the job done. Sometimes I think the emblem for supercars should have been a duck as they paddle like mad under the water and look so calm and controlled on top. Some days I am so tired I don't remember getting back to the hotel, but some days I like gold. And it's these days that keep us going. If you were to say that the team spend millions of dollars a year to win a trophy every now and then, people would think you're mad. But this year is one of the hardest for most teams to even get on the podium. We have 2 to 3 exceptional teams, which have 9 cars between them. So for a smaller team to get a first, a second or a third is hard work and something which is getting harder and harder to do. I have been asked, why do I do it? When you know that the podium spots are already gone. Well, look at Phillip Island, where we were on the podium. And I will always say hard work and a good strategy gives you the same chance as any other team. Sometimes it's not about the money. Sometimes it's about the pain and the guts and the determination to get there that counts. I know supercars are not for everyone and that it is seen as a bogan sport. People think of the smell, the noise, the dirt and the amount of people who invade you for 4 days a year. What they don't see are the families who come, the ones who save all year just to see the cars, the smiles on their faces when a driver says hi. They don't see the meaning this has in their lives, the money they have saved to buy the team shirt or the jacket, the pride they feel when their team gets up on the steps of the podium. I see whole families out for the day. I see fathers and sons and grandfathers and grandsons, mothers and daughters and friends and husbands and wives and mates, all in the one spot to see the one thing. They wake up at an ungodly hour to wait in line to be the first to enter, and they drag their feet when it's time to go home. This is why I do what I do, for hugging children and having photo with mates and sitting on the ground with that one child who's just so tuckered out they can't take another step. And just talking to all the fans. It's not always about Erebus. It is about what this sport can do for the community, who it brings together and the smiles on the kids and the big kids' faces. Sometimes I'm so tired that all I want to do is go into the trailer and lie down. But I remember I do this 16 times a year and the little kids or their parents have waited for an hour to see me and get a photo or tell me about what they've been doing for the last 12 months. I see the rich and the poor and the middleman. I see kids and adults with no teeth, but they all have their clean team shirt on and have pride in themselves for saving and buying their shirt. I see kids in wheelchairs and ones that are there through Make-A-Wish Foundation, Variety, a whole lot of beautiful charities. The hardest one was ever a woman who was dying and the hospice allowed her one more outing and that was to see the new Mercedes team and to meet me. They didn't ask for a tour, and it was only luck that I found out why they were at the track. She didn't want a fuss made over her. She cried when we gave her a shirt and a cap and thanked me over and over for showing her the cars and spending time with her. She died 2 weeks later. So anytime anyone says hi at the track, I will gladly spend time with them, unless the race is on or I'm running to the toilet. Because it is not always about us and what we do and what we have. It is about what we can give and what we can do to bring joy into people's lives. Supercars are a tradition. In a lot of families, it's like a religion. And I have been very honoured to be able to bring that joy to people through my team and through motorsport. I don't always get on with supercars and have my own problems with them. I am 58 years old, a woman, and think I should have a personal Portaloo. I have a big thing with me and them. Need more women's toilets. I have a built-in radar for something being unfair. So much to the horror of the establishment, I have a tendency to tell them how to run things and badger them about the equality on and off track. But someone has to do it. How do we afford to keep these cars on the track? It costs a basic team about $5 million a year for 2 cars. To do what we do, and we do it through sponsors. And no, we don't make a lot of money out of it. We're lucky to come out equal. I used to sponsor my own team, but found that the drive and the determination was disappearing. So I made a new rule, and that was that the team had to find their own sponsors. And so if any of you know anyone who's looking to sponsor a team, you know where to come. Because if I didn't say that, my commercial team would hit the roof. We have 2 amazing drivers, one of which is here tonight. And I wrote this by hand. You should never do this. Oh, and you'll be able to question him later on. Dave Reynolds and Dale Wood, do not try to... Okay, say that again. Dave Reynolds and Dale Wood, and do not try to say that fast in your head or you will drive yourself insane. Think they're both very funny people. They're a little over the top, but both of these men never say no to a fan. They never whinge on the radio, and both give 1,000% to my team. So all in all, I'm a very lucky woman. I get to travel with my gorgeous husband who puts up with the many faces of Betty, watch fast cars, meet amazing people and friendly people along the way, and spend it with about 400 men. So thank you for this wonderful evening, and thank you, Newcastle, for having Erebus and the rest of the supercar teams find a place to finish off the year. And being a patriotic New South Welsh woman, I'm very proud and excited to come back here in November, and a little bit of me will just be kind of like the Newcastle representative for the teams. So thank you, and I will call up Dale Wood and Kurt to come up here and have a bit of a chat. Okay, Dale, you can tell
Thanks,
them.
Betty.
Thank you.
Move it back up now to a normal height. She's got a bloody good story to tell. Yeah, very proud to be here tonight and honoured. It is really good. It's not many opportunities to get amongst a new town and at a new racetrack, and we're all Newcastle. I know, new town. So if you can all cheer Dale Wood really loud come the round and nobody else, then maybe I'll try to slip you $1 each or something like that. But ultimately, I'll just answer a bunch of questions if you guys have got them. But I sort of thought, well, we're coming to, just make sure I get this right, a bunch of automotive mechanical engineers. I thought I might just give you a little bit of background as well when my career of mechanical engineering started and ended. So first one was Dad always had me doing my own work back in the earlier days when I was a junior, or I was about the age of 11. He'd always have me working on my own motorbikes because that's what I was doing at the time, and things got going pretty well in that, and I went to the Melbourne Supercross, so I did the Australian Supercross scene as a junior and made the final at the Melbourne Supercross. And Dad said, right, go out and change your air filter on your bike. So I did that, took it out, took the air filter off, stuffed a rag into the air box to make sure that no dirt or anything like that went in there, put a new air filter on it and gave the bike back to Dad and said, can you wheel it to the line for me? I'll get my gear on and we'll race in the final. So he kicked and kicked and kicked and kicked and tried to start the bike, but I never pulled the rag out. So it got sucked into the carby, and I missed out on the only final that I ever made in Supercross. The second one was, I actually rang him before just to ask him how old he thought I was at the time. So he thinks 13, maybe 12, but probably 13. I had a 1984 Gemini paddock bomb, and I had a day off school, or whether it was school holidays, but I decided I wanted to weld the diff on it because I couldn't go around the paddock very quick because they're just a single spinner. So I thought I'm going to weld the diff. So Dad went off to work and so did Mum. I jacked the car up, put it on some bricks, pulled the back housing off the diff, cleaned it all up with some brake clean, got Dad's arc welder out and thought I'm going to weld this up. So I got his welding mask and put it over and started welding and thought, this is ridiculous, I can't see. I don't know why people do this. So I threw away the welding mask and spent the rest of the day welding and welding and welding and welding and turned that diff into a solid ball of weld. And then at about midnight that night, I woke up absolutely screaming and had some of the worst welder's flash that I think some people have ever seen. So I got taken to hospital and had all sorts of stuff run through my eyes and spent a few days with patches over my eyes, not being able to see a thing. So that there is where I'll call my career of being a mechanical engineer. But I've always been very involved in the mechanical side of things of it, and I enjoy it. I'm lucky enough now to be racing with Erebus Motorsport. I've got a marvellous team boss, Betty, next to me, and it's really good that I'm a lot taller than her. My other team bosses have been taller than me, so but no, things have been going really well. We've had a good start to the year, had a tough round, the last one at Winton, couldn't get things working there, but my teammate Dave Reynolds, he puts the bar high every race, every session at the moment. He's doing a really good job and proven the equipment can do it. So we've had a bunch of top 10s and some really good qualifying efforts. We just got to turn that into consistent results, but it's so far been a really good ride, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of years anyway.
Kurt?
Hi, as Betty mentioned before, I actually work for Supercars, so I'm the event manager here for the Coates Hire Newcastle 500. So basically, me and my team are going to be here working through the next few months, getting everything ready for this event, which, as Betty mentioned, is going to be the finale for the 2017 Supercar Championship. So it's not just going to be a normal race, it's going to be the biggest race of the year. I mean, okay, Bathurst is probably the biggest race, but apart from Bathurst, the Newcastle event is just going to be one amazing weekend. And from the short time that I've spent here in Newcastle, I've already seen that this town is probably one of the best kept secrets in Australia. I mean, what Newcastle has got here, and sorry, I'm going to have to tell people about it. What you guys have got here with the beaches and what's happening around the waterfront and the way this city is emerging, it's a great place. And come November this year, the Supercars Championship is going to bring a spotlight onto this town like you've never seen. And the circuit that we're building up there at the East End there, you're going to see cars racing through the streets of Newcastle with the beach in the background and the waterfront there. And this place is just going to be shown to the world for what a great city it is. And I think you guys are really going to enjoy having that spotlight put on your city. And you'll enjoy having all the great people from Supercars come along here as well, because it's not just people like Betty and Dale here who make up the teams, but there's all the support categories, all the corporate guests, all the fans. We're looking at probably 150,000 people across the 3 days that are going to be coming into this city, and they're going to be coming here and enjoying all that Newcastle has to offer. And I know they're all gagging for it. The ticket sales to date have been fantastic. A few weeks back we had a launch here, a family day, and the response we had was just absolutely amazing from not only just the locals, but from Supercars fans all around Australia. So I've got to say we're all looking forward to November, and I hope you guys are too.
Is this one that's working as well? Yep.
All right, too easy.
Me and Betty can share this one, but we'd prefer, instead of just waffle on, you guys just, if you've got some questions, just hit us and we'll try and answer them as intelligently as we possibly can. I thought I was leaving.
Stand still.
I can't stand still, I'm freezing. I thought I was leaving cold Melbourne for a beautiful sunny Newcastle, and what the hell happened?
Kurt, do you want to run around with the microphone?
I can do that, absolutely. That's a great idea. I can do that. Has anyone got any questions? Come on, someone can be
someone's
first.
got to have a question.
Okay.
Can't embarrass me with no questions.
Thank you very
My
much.
son.
Thank you very much. Betty, can I ask, what's the relationship at the moment between cams and supercars, given the kind of things we saw at Phillip Island recently? Is the cam still regulating supercars or vice versa?
Which one? What was the first bit you said between somebody and supercars?
Confederation of Australian
CAMS.
Motorsport, CAMS.
Oh, that's. You know what? I think that's even a Kirk question, because I kind of stay away from the politics unless it involves Roland Day.
No, you don't.
I do. I do. Don't tell me I don't. I do. I do.
Yeah, look, I guess it's an interesting question. In terms of the way the judicial system works with supercars, you have the rule book, which Betty and Dale would know very well, and then CAM supplies the officials that sort of administer that. It's a bit of a difficult question to answer, and yeah, you've really done a good job there. But it's the actual rules themselves are put together by supercars. But the CAMS officials are the ones that sort of adjudicate what happens through that. So,
And then the stewards are the ones that tell you how much you owe in fines.
Correct. That's right. That's right. It's the relationship with superstars and CAMS. It's a cohesive sort of thing. But that doesn't mean, like any good marriage, you don't have discussions, healthy discussions from time to time. Yeah, fair enough.
There's been a fair shake-up this year in our judicial system with the likes of with what cams and supercars and that had going on, and there's some new rules that they've brought in place for this year. But I think at the moment it's doing quite well. All we ask for as drivers is that we have consistency, so that we know that if a certain move happens on track, that what the penalty is going to be for that, and then it's going to remain consistent for the year. Where what we've had a lot of frustration in the last few years, mainly with Bargs at the head of it, we feel, but a lot of inconsistency in that. So it's for us. It's just we just want to know that, right, if we do that, what's the penalty going to be? So if someone else does it to us, it's going to consistently be the same rule. We don't want from race to race for that to change.
All right. We've got another question back here. Hold on.
Howdy doody. Can I just ask, what is the noise decibels that supercars are supposed to run at?
95, is that right, Kirk? Yep.
95
decibels.
So can we take the mufflers off when you come to Newcastle so you can make more noise? Come on.
I wish. I have asked that question before.
If they sounded like that, mate, we wouldn't want racing.
At least we don't have to worry about waking the penguins.
Someone get that man a drink.
Okay. Any more questions? Anyone?
Oh, don't go again. So no one wants to know anything about anything. I'm off scot-free.
Okay, Betty, I'll ask a question.
Okay.
Between you two drivers, which one do you think of them's the better cook?
The better what?
Better cook.
Neither of them.
Surely they both made your dinner.
I cooked the team burgers yesterday.
Yeah, but I wasn't there.
I cooked the team burgers yesterday, and they all reckon they were awesome. They probably wouldn't say they weren't.
Excuse me. Both of them are health nuts. And they eat all that crappy stuff. Like everything has to be gluten-free and bread-free and taste-free and everything free. And I have a drawer. My drawer in the transport is here. Because you come into our A transporter or our A truck trailer and the drivers have a little area and then it goes into my area. So my drawer is full of really yummy stuff like Tim Tams and Tim Tams and their drawer is full of nuts and seeds and tasteless crap. So that answers I do the best cooking because I make gluten positive biscuits.
Well, it's good because we don't want Betty going through our nuts anyway.
Oh, by the way, we saw a sign come. when we were here, we were walking along the beach to have something to look for something to eat. And this one thought it would be really funny to say, oh, let's go, we can nibble Nobby's nuts. And then one we went outside and there's a sign that says Nobby's Beach. Just thought it was funny.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
I think they're a bit scared of the answers.
is it a council decision or a V8 Supercars decision to go through the east end of the residential part of Newcastle or along the Shortland Esplanade, which would be visually much more beneficial for, I would think, everyone involved?
Sure. Look, obviously that's been a topic that's been discussed here in Newcastle quite a bit. There's a lot that goes into designing of a street circuit, because obviously you're not starting with a clean sheet of paper. You've got to work with the roads as they exist in that area, as they currently are. So when they're looking at the designs and the layouts, a lot comes into the amount of space you have to work with, what you can actually do. And so the engineers worked for a very long time to come up with the track design they had, and certainly looking along the Bathers Way area was considered, but unfortunately for a number of different factors they couldn't make that work. So we've ended up with a track that's going to be, visually very spectacular. It's going to create some great passing areas for the drivers, and it's obviously it's going to create some very exciting racing across the weekend. And I think once you see the cars out on track, everyone will understand that it's going to look really great.
No one else?
I was just going to say, what do you think we can do to encourage more women to get into motorsport?
First off, I like the idea of a supercar employee running around for me. Lovely, lovely. Women, you know what, I get asked that question a lot, and sometimes I'll go with the standard answer, and standard answers just don't work anymore. Like I said, if women, we had on Dale's car last year, we had 2 women mechanics. A number 1 and number 2 were both women, and they did an amazing job. And like I said, the gender doesn't matter. They've either got the want and the will to do it, or they don't. You can't talk someone, especially, women can't be talked into anything. They have to want to do it. As long as you show them that it is possible for them to be there, and that hopefully what I've done and what the girls in my team have done has opened doors and windows so that the next generation don't have to open any doors, don't have to open any windows, that it's there, the path is out there for them. And it's people like my neighbour Simona, who I think is an amazing driver, by the way, not because she's a woman, she's just an amazing driver. And that was made even more spectacular after watching the Indy on the weekend. She's opening doors and she's showing people that a woman can get out there, and she's going to be a force to reckon with in a couple of years once she gets to understand the track and all the tracks a bit more. But it's in the schools that you have to show them what this career can lead to. It doesn't have to always be a mechanic. You can, like John said before, that it can lead to other things. It can lead to it can lead to space rockets. It can lead to anything. This type of knowledge is great to have anywhere in the world and can get you a job anywhere in the world. And this is what we've got to teach our girls, that their brain is bigger than what they are. They can expand it. They can use their imagination. And this is just one of 1,000 things they can do in the auto industry, in the supercars. We have a lot of women now. I don't know what they do, but they're there, especially the ones in the white shirts. I have a tendency to call everyone from V8 Supercar the white shirters because they wear white shirts. But there's a lot of women who do some amazing things in our sport and in your trade. So get them at the school age, get them going when they're young, and don't worry about their gender. Just do the job and do it well.
I'll make one comment on that, and that's the interesting thing, like just what Betty said at the end, is the way Simona has come into our category as well, which is it was a huge feat for her. She's a very accomplished driver and done some amazing stuff overseas. But she comes in with a no bullshit attitude. She has come in. She's never hidden ever once behind any level of excuse or anything like that. She's gotten on with the job, put her head down, and just really tackled it. On the track she races really hard. And I think the way that she has approached it has been unbelievable, and she's doing a really good job. So, like I say, she hadn't hidden behind any excuse. She just got out there and just done her job that she's been employed to do, which has been pretty cool to see.
Oh, she did. She did. You know what? I was I was against her being there. I was one of these people who said women, and don't think any less of me. I said women should not be in V8s. Why? Because men can be a driver in V8s, but they can also have a family. They can also have kids. You are making a woman choose one or the other. Well, sort of. This is a physical thing. It's a physical thing for women that they have to make that decision whether to not have children until much later on in life, or have children early on in life and then get onto the career, which doesn't work at all. But, you know, she's proved me wrong, and I've told her that. I said to her, you have proved me wrong. You have proved to me that women can be in this sport and can be drivers in the top, or in the what we consider to be the top series in Australia. And one thing she does do, and we do as women, every so often we will meet behind a transporter and have girly talk and gossip and who's doing this with whom and who's doing what with whom, and that's the only concession we give into in as being a woman. Yeah, I know. Hope that answered you.
What's the difference? Can you tell us about the Newcastle track? What makes it better, or what makes it different to any other track around Australia?
Dale, you had a look. Do
you want to start, or do you want me to?
Oh, we can both do it.
Do it together.
Yeah, teamwork. Look, the Newcastle track, certainly it's going to be very unique in terms of the layout of the circuit. There's a lot of rise and fall, a lot of street circuits you see. Certainly the Homebush track in Sydney, the Gold Coast Street Circuit, Townsville, they're all fairly flat. Now, most of you, I'm sure, know the east end of Newcastle very well. Heading up Watt Street, that's a fair bit of a climb. And then coming down Shortland Avenue, that twisty bit there, I mean, that's going to create, a pretty awesome spectacle as the cars kind of duck and weave around the street with that huge rise and fall. And for Dale and his fellow drivers, that's going to be the challenge for them to be able to set their cars up to handle all that different sort of elevation changes to the track itself and the different sort of the camber as they go around. And I think that's going to be one of the key factors here.
Yeah, Kirk's nailed it with that. It's just any track that you go to with undulation and some good climbs and some downhills, that sort of thing, we feel makes for a really fun racetrack. We go to Queensland Raceway where it's 6 corners and it's dead flat and it's boring as hell. So that's why Bathurst is next level again in having such a big climb up to the top of the mountain and then all the way down. But the other thing for us is that we don't often get to race at a new track. We've been, if you're talking of the likes of Craig Lowndes and Garth Tander, they've been going to the same tracks year after year after year, which is fantastic because you get a great group of supporters that you see every year at those tracks and all that sort of thing. But these guys, I mean, myself as well, I've been in the category for a couple of years now, is you roll out at these tracks like Winton, Queensland Raceway, our first laps are within tenths of a second of what we'll do for the rest of the weekend because we know the circuit so well. We don't have a whole lot to learn with them, so it just comes down to just fine-tuning the cars then over those next few practice sessions. But to roll out to somewhere new is seriously exciting for us because we're all back to a blank page. We've all got to learn a track, learn what we can get away with and what we can't get away with, and you'll see that in the first few practice sessions of the round when it comes. So for us, it's really exciting. We get to go to somewhere new and tackle some new corners we haven't tackled before.
Thanks.
He's been touching ever since I said I got cold. He's been rubbing me and touching me. It's all weird, but I don't mind it.
You told me that's what you wanted, I'm just trying to help you. Could we obviously thank Dale and Kurt and this amazing woman here. She is so giving. Ross Falls, would you like to make your way up here for a moment?
Okay, hi everybody.
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming tonight and our suppliers and all our guests. And in particular, having Betty and Dale and Kurt has been an awesome evening, and it's really good that you could come, Betty. I'm so thrilled.
I loved it.
That's great. And I would like to call on Erin Fairman to come up. And we're just going to present Betty with a gift for coming,
Ooh, I like
which
this.
we've got it here.
Oh, how cool is that? Little teddy bear clothes. Oh. Rachel, thank you. That is very cool. Very cool. Oh my God. Dale. Hold that. A year.
Yep, your last in roses.
Thank you.
So if everybody could just give Betty and everybody up here an applaud for coming. It's been a great effort and I'm so thrilled. And thank you, Betty, once again. And Dale and Kurt.